Hi guys, it's Jessica Cadman here, and for those of you who don't know, I am a third year Bachelor of Science in Dietetics student, and I'm going into my fourth year, and so now's the time for me to be making up my medical school application. So if you've watched my last video, you know that I've been planning on applying all throughout Canada, and maybe in the States is also something I was looking at. But recently, well not recently, I've also considered applying outside of Canada and outside of America. So I've actually looked a lot into applying to the UK and their medical school programs and how they compare to Canada. And despite all my research, I looked on YouTube and on Google and everything, I couldn't really find a lot of information on how the process goes, and there's a lot of just gray area for those of us who are used to the Canadian education system. So I just felt like I would maybe clear some of this up. And I did a lot of extensive research on this, so I'm hoping that this can be helpful for those of you who are maybe planning to apply somewhere else, mainly in the UK for the purpose of this video. So the universities also take into consideration your predicted grades, and those will be determined by your current professors or your professors for your next term. So that's something that I was looking at. Sorry for the background noise. My cat is going crazy. I might have to grab that from his toy. Anyway, so that's just something to be mindful of. Okay, just a sec. Okay, sorry about that. So, where was I? Okay, I have all this information written down because there's a lot to it. So in addition to them taking into consideration your predicted grades, which will count towards your application, there's like this grading system that's a lot different from Canada. So you're going to see, if you go to like various universities in the UK, you're going to see like AAB or AAA or something, and I really did not know what that meant. It said you have to have A-level courses and have like AAB or AAC in chemistry. And I was really trying to find some clarification on what that meant by comparison to our grading scheme here in Canada and the US. So I found out that A-level grades are essentially any university level course grade, and that can either be from in high school when you're taking university prep courses or in university. And they have A, B, C, D, E, U as their grading scheme, and an A would be representative of 80% or above, which is the same with us, and a B would be between 70 and 79 or whatever. So it's kind of like the same that way for us. But when you see AAA, that just means that you have to have 3 A-level grades, and if it doesn't specify with which courses you have to have those 3 grades in, it doesn't matter. But if it says you have to have AAB with an A in chemistry, then that means that you have to have 1-year chemistry courses that have an A-level grade. So I hope that kind of clears it up a little bit. But other than that, if it doesn't specify, it doesn't really matter. So that was probably one of the biggest things that I needed to seek clarification on, because I really didn't know. And another method that they also may use is they may do it by the UKCAT points. So that's like a tally up of all the grades. So an A would be worth the most points, and a B would be worth like the second most points, and then an E-level grade would be worth the least. And they don't really take into consideration people with U-level grades, because they didn't really specify anything about U-level grades, which would be like a fail. So then they'll tally all those up, but not very many schools do this, because if you're taking, say, 6 courses and you got C's in all those courses, then you'd still have like a higher, like you'd still have a good amount of points by comparison to someone who maybe got like A's and B's, just because you're taking more courses. So not a lot of universities do that, but some of them do. I don't have specific examples, but if you look on the university that you're interested in, if you look on their website, then you'll clearly see it there. So what else? Okay, so you also have to take an additional test. So there's the GMAT, and this is the biomedical admissions test, and it's a 2-hour test, and there's 3 sections. And they advise you that there's not a lot of studying and preparation for it, because most of the information you're already going to know, and it's just kind of like testing your knowledge of it that you've learned in university. And that's another difference between Canada and America and the UK is that they do have like prerequisites for their medical programs. So if you see like I said earlier, if you have AAB and it says with an A in chemistry, then that means that you're going to need to have taken an A-level chemistry course, which is like either a university preparation chemistry course or a chemistry course in university. So that's what that means, and that's a little bit of a difference there, is that you're going to have to take some courses in the sciences. So whether that be in high school or through university, you're kind of going to need to have that background. And basically, so going back to the BMAT, this test is basically divided into 3 sections. So there's aptitude and skills is the first section, scientific knowledge and application is the second section, and then there's a writing task. So I'll attach a little link in the comments in the little section below just so that you guys have a direct link to the BMAT. And there's also another test that they may require you to take. So different universities in the UK will require that you take either the BMAT or the UKCAT. And then there's a third test, which I'll talk about later, but that's only applicable to certain people. So the UKCAT is the UK Clinical Aptitude Test, and it's kind of more like an IQ test, and they do advise you prepare for it, but really like it's a lot of like reasoning skills, so they're not testing your specific knowledge, but more like your IQ. It's kind of like an IQ based kind of test. So that's how it varies from the MCAT, whereas the MCAT is very like application based and knowledge based, whereas the UKCAT is more like kind of like an aptitude test that tests your IQ. So that's the other test that you may be required to take, and normally just the universities will require one or the other, and they're very different. I found that a lot of them require the BMAT and a lot of them require the UKCAT, so I feel like maybe it's about 50-50. Maybe it's divided a little differently than that, but from my research so far, that's kind of what I found. There's also an additional test called the GMAT, and this is basically just used for graduate entry programs. So I've emailed like a couple of universities asking about this, where I'm getting my undergraduate degree right now, so I'm kind of like wondering if this is a test that I should take so that I don't have to do a whole undergrad in medicine before pursuing like the doctorate program. But I'll let you guys know when I get a response from that, because I didn't know if I should be taking this test or not still. So there's still a lot of gray area for me in this whole application process. So in addition to all the information that I just said, it's very important that you know that you also, so you don't just have to apply to the medical schools individually, you also need to apply through UKCAT. So I'll attach like a link to that below too. And you kind of need the 2 applications, or your application does not count and will not be reviewed and will be considered incomplete, so then you're not going to get into the university. And all the university sites so far have been pretty good at like outlining that, but again, like you may just be overwhelmed by all the information that's out there in regards to applying to UK medical school, so I figured I'd just mention that now, just so that nothing's overlooked. And then also you obviously need a personal statement and references, as well as like your transcripts and stuff to prove your grades. And then after you submit your application, if you're accepted for an interview, you are, in most cases, like every case that I've reviewed so far, you are expected to attend the interview in person. So you have to book a flight to wherever the interview is, and most of the websites have like the dates of the interview already listed, so then you should know, my cat's being crazy, sorry. Then you should know what days you need to be available for. And I was reviewing, I think it was Oxford's website, and they said if you're not available on between the 16th and the 18th of December, then like your likelihood of getting into the program is like very low. So I guess there's like a penalty for that. Oh yes, and in regards to the test dates, basically what you do is you're going to book your test at one of your local test centers. I have a lot of links to attach, but I'll attach you a link to that too. I think it's by the Pearson Test Center or something, and they have a lot of them all throughout Canada and all throughout the US. Like I'm in Halifax, and they have I think 5 different test centers, so it's not it's not a big deal, and you just book it basically from the online system, and you can select whatever date is best for you. And the test is available between July 1st and October 5th, so anytime within that time period. But what I have found, and what I will caution you about, is that most universities require for you to write the test by October 1st, so that they have like the scores and stuff back, and then your application is also due on October 15th for most schools. This is what I've seen this trend so far. So just be cautious of that. Although the test is open until October 5th, like you should definitely do it before then, because the last date for most places is October 1st. And some may be earlier, but that's just what I found so far. Yes, so don't forget that you do need to submit your application both to the school that you're applying for and to the UCAS. And if you have any questions about the school's application process, you can just contact them directly. That's what the UCAS tells you to do, because it's more of like a generalized system where your application goes to many different places, but then you have to make an additional application for the school itself. So don't forget about that. I feel like that's a really important piece of information. But other than that, that's kind of all the information I found so far. So it's pretty straightforward. Once I got it all together, it's become very straightforward, but before this, it's been very confusing. So I figured I'd just do a little video here, since there seemed to be nothing on YouTube about it. I was looking it up and I was like, you gotta be kidding me, right? Also, another thing to caution people about is if you're planning on attending medical school in the UK, it may or may not be recognized in Canada or the US. So look into that. I'm planning on looking into that a little bit more. Although I do plan on living in the UK for, like a good part of my life, so I'm not really concerned too much about that. But if you're not planning on staying in the UK or Europe itself, you should definitely look into the policies and I don't know if you have to take an exam or something. I've heard that from some people, just to become recognized in Canada or the US as a medical doctor. But definitely look into that so that you're not screwed when you come back home and you're like, oh, well, I did my whole medical degree, but now I'm not certified here. So yeah, so just look into that, and I hope this video is helpful for all of you guys. I know that this whole process has been really confusing and overwhelming for me, so it's really great to have most of the bulk of the information in one place. And I have a document open, I have all the facts written down, and now I know clearly what I'm supposed to do and what's expected of me. So I hope this helped, and if you have any questions or comments, you can just post below and ask me, and if I have the information, I will definitely answer right away, and if not, then I'll try to find it for you. So have a good day, guys. See you. Bye.